Hello, John Shackelford here. Thanks again all for joining that design session this morning, and thank you, Gabe, for hosting it. I was really impressed by the number of ideas that this team generated, and thank you. Thanks for being brave and with very little context to just jump right in. I thought there was a lot of great stuff that came out of it, and I can't wait to make further iterations on those same ideas. Now, I'm afraid I had to leave the meeting before I could share mine, so I thought I would do that real quick. And then I hope in a follow-up session we could share with one another what we liked about each of the designs in particular. By the way, I've got my pal Benjamin here with me. He's going to be helping me through this. All right, let's go to the mural. All right, let's just walk through what we've got here. So you see on the left, I have this filter area. Perhaps it could be collapsed at times. And then on the right, we have the main sort of workflow view. And so let me talk a little bit about the filter, and then we'll work through the workflow. So the filter bar allows us to highlight items in the workflow view, either by a particular epic or by a team member. So the idea is if you highlight one of those items or select one of those items, all of the individual issues will turn a dark color or something to indicate that they are connected to that particular epic. Same thing could be done with team member. And of course, we could show a few key pieces of metadata about the epic, like when we expected it to be finished, or the rate at which progress is being made, or for a team member, something about how many tasks they're loaded with, and so on. Okay, coming into the main view here, you can see it's kind of like a Kanban board in that it has columns. Here I've got one for input, design, and dev, and so on. These are sort of reflective of our current GitLab process, but they could be customized for a particular process. And as I move down the column, things start to be different from a Kanban board. First of all, we've got the little boxes instead of the whole issues highlighted. And then secondly is the column is divided into sections. And so the very first one you can see here, we've got 3 items in it. And then it's called, this area is for features. And we're telling you something about this particular kind of input. The lead time for this input is 13 days. The work in progress is 8 days. And that might be different for a different kind of input. As we go further down, we've got one here that is for support issues or for bugs. And there, the lead time may be different. The work in progress limit may be different. And each of these, here we've got one for security and compliance. These are different sources of demand for your system. And then up at the top, we've got this flow distribution graph. This is the chart of sort of the percentage of those different inputs over time, so that I can see how I'm spending the resources that I have. Am I primarily fixing bugs? Am I primarily building features? What's the ratio there? Maybe I want to make some corrective action around the WIP limits here to adjust that mix. Then items come over into the next column, and the first step in this process is a design step. And because this is not an input, here we've chosen to highlight the work in, not just the work in process limit, but also cycle time. How long is something typically in this particular area? And then items are moving down the column and so on. So to the estimation step. And I wanted to do this to save space so that I could get my whole flow on one page and I didn't have to do any scrolling. I could see the whole thing at a glance, even if there are a lot of steps in it. then I'm using icons to indicate different kinds of items, and my really fuzzy little selectors over here. I've got things selected by the filter, or my legend here, normal items. And this is one that's really important to me. This is an item that hasn't moved in 24 hours. So if I'm expecting progress to be made on these things, and it shows up with this little dot in it, then that tells me something's gone wrong. I did not expect it to be waiting around with no activity of any kind. I expected it either to move to the next stage, or I expected some comments on it, or some code to be committed against it. And I might ask, why is that thing not moving? And then I've got another one here for indicating increased cycle time. And I see that here in my review bucket. This item's for review. And I really care about items that they're approaching the average cycle time for items in that area, so that if we don't move that on quickly, our metrics are going to start looking worse for this particular stage. And then things move on into the release queue. And this here, we're calling out, hey, this is a batch type process in which things are just waiting. There's no other work to be done except for a date to arrive. And we might want to reconsider having a batch process that operates that way, and try to move more to a single piece flow. Well, those are some of my ideas for this exercise. Thanks for tuning in. And I just wanted to reiterate my appreciation for everyone's participation in this process. Thanks again.